the redeemed of the Lord say so, because the world needs to know. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so, because the world needs to know. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so, because the world needs to know.
Greetings and welcome to Say So. I'm your host, Letitia R. Stuckey. Say So is where we talk. Say So is where we talk about it, whatever it is, because what you do not know can hurt you. So let's get to the root. Today, our topic is going to be self-esteem. And what caused me to think and want to explore and research more about self-esteem was actually the recent episode number 16 with Glennis W. Bell entitled Fierce and Fabulous. And we talked a lot about your attire, dressing for success, how to accomplish a certain look for business or for an interview and things of that nature, or just going out in public. But it made me think of how that's all external. That's what people can see and it's visible to the naked eye. And it's easy, honestly, to dress those up because, they make clothes in different shapes and sizes and colors. And if you're able to afford them and purchase them or invest in them, as Glenn has so eloquently put it, there's a difference between a purchase and an investment. So drawn to the more internal side of things where people don't necessarily, not something tangible that you can look and say, well, this person has low self-esteem or high self-esteem or kind of, in the middle, or there's some fluctuation there. My own personal curiosity, as a result of a unique and turbulent childhood, I struggled in the area of self-esteem. I even wrote about it, at least three of them. But the first book is entitled Cast Down But Not Destroyed, Destiny's Child. And there's a poem in there called The Mask. And I wrote it my freshman year at Bennett College in Greensboro, North Carolina, in my first writing class, actually. And it was honestly chronicled. And I wrote it my freshman year at Bennett College in Greensboro, North Carolina, in my first writing class, actually. And it was honestly chronicling my low self-esteem and how there was so much more to me, but it was masked because my self-esteem was so low. And ironically enough, we go on to be married at age 20. But that's another story for another day. So, as it pertains to this self-esteem, we're going to go through in the beginning. There's going to be a few definitions. Just listen carefully and closely. And believe this is going to evolve into more than one episode. So we're going to take our topic and subject carefully. Esteem, I believe it was Wikipedia that I found this resource from, said to be confidence in one's own worth or abilities. Now, self-respect, then, in turn, is defined as a feeling that one is behaving with honor and dignity. And I went a little further and I wrote down some synonyms for self-esteem, which synonyms are basically words that pretty much are similar or mean the same thing. The first one was self, that was actually in the definition for self-esteem. The second one is self-regard. There's another one that says pride in oneself and one's abilities, faith in oneself and pride, as well as dignity, morale, self-confidence or confidence, self-assurance or assurance. And a lot of these things, it may seem a little redundant because you just pretty much put self in front of a word and it makes it personal and it makes it applicable to the individual. So an antonym, which antonyms are the opposite of the term or the word that we're speaking about, is ways that you display the opposite is by having a lack of self-confidence, self-deprecation. And basically self-deprecation means modesty about or criticism of oneself. So you're criticizing your self confidence, a feeling of trust in one's abilities, qualities, and judgments. So as we went through the synonyms, I went a little further and broke down and defined each synonym. So we've gone over self-respect as it pertains to self-regard. Self-regard is basically consideration. Self-regard is basically consideration of oneself. Do you consider yourself? And as we go through these series of episodes, I really want you to take a look, even if you want to be in the mirror and just take a look and see, do I consider myself? How do I esteem myself? How do I feel about myself? What's myself? The third definition is pride, which is a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction deriving from one's own achievements. So having pride in yourself when you've done something well, like graduated high school or graduated college, when you've birthed into the world your first job or your first paycheck, obtained your driver's license for the first time or something like that. You may feel a sense of pride in yourself and your accomplishment. Dignity is the next definition, and it is the state or quality of being worthy of honor or respect. And it is the state or quality of being worthy of honor or respect. So having dignity in yourself. And that makes me think that, of course, all of these things aren't just limited into your personal experience or how you feel about yourself. It's also, I've heard it said this way, that we too have to treat yourself with dignity. And then others will believe and treat you as if you're worthy of honor and respect. The next definition is morale, and it simply says the confidence, enthusiasm, and discipline of a person at a particular time. And when I think, it makes me think of like a pep rally or a sports event, or maybe even church, where people are really excited, they're enthusiastic, they're smiling, they're really into the word or the performance or the dance ministry or the choir or the praise team. And that just makes me think, the morale is typically, and that just makes me think, the morale is typically high in those high energy, fast paced type environments. Also, three words for morale is spirit, heart, and optimism. And being optimistic is just being positive, having a positive outlook and a positive mindset. Pessimism, and that's basically seeing the negative in everything, being really hesitant and just not looking on the bright side. So as it pertains to your heart, with morale, they're in some ways talking about your physical heart, like having your heart in something or having something on or in your heart, but they're also talking about your heart maybe being a storage ground of what's been sown into um the soil of your heart or whatever. And that could be positive or negative. The word spirit basically means the non-physical part of a person, which is the seat of the emotions, your character, the soul. And a synonym or similar or almost the same defining words could be your psyche, which has to deal with your mind, your thought processes, and your mental capacity, as well as your ego. Your ego, your confidence, your self esteem, all of this starts in your mind. So it's important, for us to explore these things as it pertains to self esteem and your soul. There are things that are called soul wounds. So if your soul is ever wounded, it can contribute to low self esteem. Some things that can wound your soul, just coming off the top of my head, could be sin, doing something wrong that you know that is wrong. It may make you feel bad about yourself before, during, or after the act of what by someone can wound your soul. Being humiliated, being rejected, being abandoned, having your heart broken in a relationship or an interaction with someone that you love and care about. So those are just some examples of some things that can wound your soul. And on a future episode, I definitely can wound your soul. And on a future episode, I definitely want to delve much deeper into soul wounds because they are actually at the root of a lot of our issues. And you can't literally see someone's soul. Well, most of us can't. So it's hard to know that that part of you is wounded, or when that part of you is wounded, or when that part of you is wounded. But like I said, that's another topic for another day. Briefly, I just wanted to go over approximately 3 signs of healthy self-esteem, as well as 3 signs of low self-esteem. So ask yourself, do I do these things? If self-esteem could measure higher in certain situations and circumstances, and there are times when it can measure lower. It just depends. So the first sign of healthy self-esteem is being able to say this 2-letter word, no, and mean it. Because sometimes as parents, we can say no, but then we can think, well, they've been really good, or it may not hurt if I let them get an extra snack, or whatever it is that our children are asking or requesting for. But saying no and actually meaning it and sticking to your guns thing, healthy level of self-esteem. Your guns thing, healthy level of self-esteem. Now, on the flip side, an example of having low self-esteem is trouble accepting positive feedback. And I was guilty of this. I tried to be more conscious of it, and make a different decision and have a different thought process. Like, I wouldn't internalize them. I would, if somebody said that they liked something or whatever, I would smile and thank you and accept it for the moment. But it wouldn't be like I would never take a moment to sit in that and say, I did this good, or I did that well, or this person can show appreciation for this decision that I made to wear this, or to do this decision that I made to wear this, or to do this, or how that delivery came out. The second sign of healthy self-esteem is being able to accept your strengths and weaknesses. That's pretty much understanding that you're a balanced in weaknesses, and your weaknesses balances out your strengths. No one individual is strong in every area, as opposed to no one individual is weak in every area. And the flip side of that is the second side of low self-esteem is the belief that others are better than you. Not is the belief that others are better than you. Not only do some of us struggle with believing that others are better than us, but we'll even say that, openly and honestly. That just comes, like I said, it starts in your mind. So that just comes from your belief that people are better than you, and it comes up and out of your mouth. This person is better than me, or I wish I was like them. That's how jealousy and envy and covetousness kind of comes into play, because if you don't know, when you don't know who you are, you believe that others that seem to or may know who they are better than you, because it just is yourself. With this healthy versus low, when I researched it, and I'll put a description in the content, the written content that's going to be on this YouTube channel. But there was a little cartoon picture, and it just showed 2 individuals sitting at a table. One was African American, and one was Caucasian. And ironically enough, the Caucasian was the one with the healthy self-esteem, or all of the 3 examples on his side, and the African American male was the individual being displayed with low self-esteem. And he was kind of slumped over, and you could tell by his self-esteem. And he was kind of slumped over, and you could tell by his countenance or his facial expressions that he was just not in a good mood, and they had these little bubbles with their thoughts or the content of what healthy versus low self-esteem is. So this is just an example about the second. It says, whoops, I never get that right. And this was on the side of the individual who represented or displayed healthy self-esteem. And it's okay to not get some things right. Now, I personally would like to add that I learned in counseling, marriage counseling, and things of that sort, that you should never really say always and never, because even if you feel that you never get it right, a possibility that you've gotten it right, or almost right, or close to it, or you've improved over time. So it's see. I would say I would maybe say I struggle with getting that part of the equation right, or whatever the situation or circumstance is. So as we move on to the third sign of healthy self-esteem It's being able to express your needs. And having needs, we all have express your needs. And having needs, we all have needs, and that's just a given. But are you able to express them to other people? Some individuals who have struggled or struggle with low self esteem may know that they have needs, but they may feel that other people's needs pretty much trump theirs. Or, they'll sit in the background and everyone else, can order or whatever, and they're the last ones and they're okay with that. So it's just, and part of that is courtesy, but over time, if that's your preference all the time to go last, to let everybody else speak, to be, the last one picked or the last sign of low self esteem. So, literally, being able to express your needs is verbalizing them, because we all have needs. And in our mind, we may think, oh, well, I need to do this or I have to do this. But are you able to confidently assert yourself and express, okay, this is what I need from you in a relationship with someone else? Confidently assert yourself and express, okay, this is what I need from you in a relationship with someone else or with yourself. To call yourself on the carpet and say, okay, this is what you need to do about this situation, because I need to feel loved and respected. And I'm not feeling that right now. So I need to express that to this other person or something of that nature. On the flip side, the third and final sign for this portion is fear of failure. The gentleman pretty much said it's not going to work. So typically, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If in your mind you fear that it's going to work, because as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That's what the Bible says. So your thoughts are extremely powerful, and they can add to or take away from your actual experience. People or individuals who fear failure a lot of times won't try, because in their mind, if I don't try, a lot of times won't try, because in their mind, if I don't try, then I didn't fail at it. And which is the opposite of what I've learned matriculating through church and different ministries. Pastor Curtis Friday said, do it till you fail at it. Try it till you fail at it. Because there are times when you may think that I'm not good. When you may think that I'm not good at this, or I won't be good, or I'll fail, or I don't look the part, or whatever. But how do you know unless or until you try? I mean, that's the highest order of expectation we can ask or have for ourselves, is to ask someone to try this for me, or try this with me, or let's, whatever you can do, pretty much. And after you try, you can evaluate, was that a positive or negative experience? What did I learn? What can I take away from this experience? How can I do it better if I'm able to muster up enough courage to try it again, if I'm even willing? So basically, in psychology, self-esteem, the term self-esteem is used to describe a person's overall subjective sense of personal worth or value. In other words, how much you appreciate and like yourself. And there are just so many different indications of whether or not you appreciate or like yourself. I love God for creating us in a way that we can't fully lie, because okay, let's say you're saying I'm okay, but you're not. So your demeanor, your slumped posture, your nonverbal communication is communicating to the individual that you're not okay, although your mouth or your that you're not okay, although your mouth or your words are articulating that you are, which is a beautiful thing. Because if we could say I'm okay and like put on the mask or whatever and trick our body language, our nonverbal body language, then the person would not know that we're not, or being completely open and honest with them. Because like they say, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it is a duck. If you're saying that you're okay, then you look like you're okay. Your countenance is not down, your shoulders are not slumped, your body language is open as if, everything is okay. Then the individual that you're speaking with, words, but your signs and your nonverbal body language is matching up with your verbal body, with what you're saying verbally. So I love God for us not being able to really and truly 100% lie. Now, there are cases with, as it pertains to pathological liars, where there's something going on. They're wired a little differently. So they can lie, and some of them may even be able to circumvent or to fake a lie detector test, because they I'm not even sure what it is. I know there's a spiritual element to it, but they are so in control of their emotions, their body element to it, but they are so in control of their emotions, their body languages. It's almost like they have a flat affect, and your affect is your emotions. If you've ever seen someone where, let's say, maybe it's a joking situation and they're not humorous at all. They don't know how to laugh. Their facial expression does not change. And what just happened was just accept them. That person has a flat affect. So with pathological liars, they have kind of, mastered this thing. And there are times like serial killers and things of that nature, they can talk about like horrendous things and don't bat an eye. Their heart doesn't start beating fast, or they don't start sweating or feeling anxious or things of that nature. Like that's a whole different show for another day, and that's a whole different level of functioning. Now we're gonna move to a list of the factors that kind of define your self-esteem. And the first one is self-confidence or feeling of security. So how confident are you in yourself and your beliefs about yourself and your ability to try new things or do something you've never done? Do you feel secure or do you feel insecure when it comes to even thinking about those things? The second, thinking about those things. The second factor that defines your self esteem is your identity. And, just in today's society, there are so many individuals struggling with their identity. And the reason they're struggling with their identity is because they don't know who they are. And part of who they are is they've never taken the time to go to the creator, the master, the manufacturer to see and ask and actually research and just pray and really spend some time attempting to discover, who am I? What on earth am I here for? Rick Warren wrote a life, and we all have a purpose in life, and it should drive us. Once we discover it, once we pursue it, and begin to fulfill it, it's literally going to be your drive or your battery. It's going to be your drive in life. It's going to drive you toward the things that you are called to, and it's going to drive you away from the things that you are, or your battery. It's going to be your drive in life. It's going to drive you toward the things that you are called to, and it's going to drive you away from the things that you are to be called out of that are not so positive or negative. Factor of identity also pulls my mind back to another episode that I did on related grief. And we talked about the community where individuals are, transgender or bisexual or lesbian or gay or queer or questioning. Just kind of a lot of confusion and not really knowing what you are. If you are a woman that wants to be a man, or a woman that likes men or likes both, or just honestly a lot of confusion, and that's not really knowing who you are, because when you know who you are, there's a sense of confidence that comes along with that, a sense of confidence that comes along with your decisions, and things that do not and things that do not sit well with you, or do not uphold your morals and values. Those are things that you're not typically going to do on a regular or consistent basis, because you know who you are and you know whose you are. And here's another tidbit: our identity lies in our creator, our heavenly father, Father God. So if you never take the time to go to him and ask him who I am, what have you placed on the inside of me? What abilities do I have? What gifts do I have? What spiritual gifts do I have? What capabilities, like what is out of me? Then you'll never know. If you never take the time to ask, and if you never take the time to meditate and to pray and to read your word, because literally your identity is found in Christ. He tells you exactly who you are. He tells you what you're on this earth to do, your purpose, and different things of that nature. Is a huge one. A lot of times people find themselves in counseling and therapy and needing a life coach, or just needing someone else to pour into them or to help them to identify what they're good at, their strengths, different hobbies, different things that they could try that might be pleasurable to them, because they don't know, they have a lack of identity altogether. The third factor that contributes to your self-esteem is your sense of belonging. And this makes me think of, in general, it sets me up in the mindset of, it sets me up in the mindset of a child at school and trying to figure out which group do you belong in. Do you belong with the nerds? Do you belong with the jocks? Do you belong with the popular people? Do you belong with, the people that look like you, have hair like you, or approximately your height, your skin tone, melting pot of different skin tones, hair types, male versus female. We dress different, we talk different, we come from different backgrounds and things of that nature. Just trying to figure out and find where you belong. This can even go over into your family, trying to figure out where you belong, depending on your birth order, how many total children there are, and where you fall in the line. Maybe by the time you came along, your parents were just exhausted and overwhelmed, and they just weren't really focused on the children. So they did the things that were necessary to keep you from perishing or dying. They kept you fed and they kept a roof over your head and things of that nature. But they did the things that were necessary to keep you from perishing or dying. They kept you fed and they kept a roof over your head and things of that nature. But maybe the emotional support that you needed, they weren't able to give you that, or the spiritual support that you needed, or the validation, or just pouring into your self-esteem, helping you. It's like an arrow pointing you in a direction. You did this well. This may be something that you can continue to do well. And for some people, if you do it well enough for yourself, then you may be able to branch out and do it for others as it pertains to cosmetology, or doing hair or nails or makeup, or putting together clothes that match. And you may have in the future have a tendency to be in fashion or modeling or things of that nature. Just finding out where you belong. Where do I fit? It also makes me think of trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Like, do you fit? Do you belong there? Does that to a round hole? Like, do you fit? Do you belong there? Does that, meet your needs? Does it complement your shape, your size? Things of that nature. So the fourth and final one is self competence. Do you feel competent in any area? Do you feel capable or competent enough to teach someone, or to lead someone down this same path that you've been down, or to lead them away from going down the same path that you have experienced or gone through? So basically, just feeling this is something that I can do. And it's definitely very important as parents that we feel competent. It's important that our teachers are competent and or feel competent, or just individuals like mentors, individuals in our lives that will pour into us and will give to us a different side or a different perspective of ourselves. So as I look at the time for conclude this episode on self-esteem, and it will be continued. So it will be continued on the following broadcast. I just want you to remember that God and only God has the final say so about where you are, where you have been, and where you're going. Where you are, where you have been, and where you're going. You're simply in the process of becoming. And I would like to add, you're not just becoming, but you're in the process of becoming who and what God created you to be from the foundation of the earth. And until next time, miracles and blessings to you today and every day.
Because the world needs to know, let the redeemed of the Lord say so. Because the world needs to know, let the redeemed of the Lord say so. Because the needs to know.